Hello, we're back, we're live, and we're here for what is actually a special early doors episode of our Prep Week scheduled series. And we're going to be here today with one of our special headline sponsors, Epic Games, and we're going to be talking all about UEFN. We're also going to be unveiling a few surprise nuggets. So hands up if you've ever played Fortnite. I know I have. And if you've played Fortnite, you'll know that it has evolved massively since the time it was first conceived. The tools, the technologies, the various engine technology involved has evolved to such a great extent that you can do a plethora of things. And we've got this new technology called UEFN, which has been around for a few years. And there's some special features to do with that. And we've got a special guest today that's going to take us through everything there is to know about that, whilst we also speak about our unique UEFN diversifier, which we're going to be announcing here today as part of this session. So through the magic of the internet.
Hello.
Yay. Hey, Alex, you okay?
Yes, I'm doing really well. Thank you for having me. I'm so pleased to be here.
Yeah, I'm super excited. It's the very first session of our prep week. So it's an early one because prep week actually starts next week, but we're getting in really super early with Epic Games. So I'm super happy about that. I'm also happy as well because I have a bunch of friends, family who are Fortnite fanatics. So they're just going to be watching everything that we say, everything that we do, looking for nuggets of wisdom here and there. So do you want to tell us what you do and what we're going to talk about?
Yeah, so I'm Alexandra Cata. I've been at Epic for about 8 years now, and I've been working on Fortnite for about 5 of those years, specifically the creator tool. So what I'm here to talk about today is really all of what you need to know to get started developing in Fortnite. So it's really like if you're like, I don't know what's going on there. Like you were saying, Richard, like you have all these new tools. What are they about? Like this is the perfect presentation and really the perfect presentation to open the pre-week because it really is a baseline of like, here's what it is and here's all the cool stuff you can do with it. And here's everything that we give you in order to help you be successful and do that. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. I can't wait. And I think the perfect segue into that is to announce this is a sneak preview, a spoiler alert, early doors, early registration nugget of wisdom that we're giving out. That as headline sponsors this year, where we have an exclusive diversifier at Global Game Jam 2026 with Epic Games, and it is called Build It in UEFN. So if you want to use that diversifier, you're going to have to learn to build something in UEFN. So this session is the perfect session to segue straight into the stuff we want to talk about today. So if you want to get ready and give us an intro into everything UEFN, and then we can talk a little bit more about what we may or may not do in 48 hours.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. All right. Yeah. So we're going to jump off the bus. We're going to get right into it. My screen goes. There we go. Okay, so just a little bit about me. Like I said, I've spent a lot of time at Epic. I started in Unreal Engine documentation and then moved into Fortnite. And so I've got a lot of experience on both product sides. But I'm gonna move on. All right. So I'm a writer, so of course I have to have a table of contents. But this is what we're really going to cover today. Like Rich said, it really is laying the groundwork and the foundation for understanding what you can do in Fortnite and also what are the resources available to you to help you learn. So this is really great to kind of get started and do some pre-research ahead of the game jam for if UEFN in Fortnite is a tool that you even want to be using. Hopefully it is, but we'll let you decide. So I'm just going to do like a brief overview of like what it means to develop in Fortnite. I'm going to talk a lot about devices and then your first island. So this is a really great place to start and really get started for your first time. The hands-on learning content that we have available for you, and then where to go when you need help. Okay. So why should you build and publish in Fortnite? Like obviously there's a lot of different game engine tools out there. The great thing about Fortnite is that we have a built-in audience. It's really easy to gray box and iterate quickly. And then we also have a lot of really cool brand official partnerships like Lego. If you haven't been in Fortnite recently, like a lot of the Lego content is huge. There's a ton of official Lego content in there. So you should definitely check it out. But we also have partnerships with Paramount, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Walking Dead universe, Squid Game, and then most recently K-pop Demon Hunters. So the development and iteration cycle is like any other kind of, game project, right? You start with your design, you iterate, you play test, you publish, you iterate, and then you could go back into that loop, right? So right now we're in, for the Game Jam, the design and iteration, and I'm going to talk a lot about this as well. So really, to get started, it's important to know that you need really two pieces for the Game Jam. You need two pieces of information, right? You need to download Fortnite itself, the Fortnite client itself, and then download UEFN. They're two different downloads. I'm going to talk a little bit why that is in a minute. And then when you're ready to publish, you join the creator program. And that is where the Island Creator Program, you sign up for the creator portal, and that's where you publish your island, you get your island analytics, any monetization you have on your island, all that stuff is housed in the creator portal. So those are the three pieces that really make being a developer in Fortnite happen. Okay, so devices. Devices are really important. So back in the days of only Fortnite Creative, there was no code, right? And so devices were our way of pre-packaging gameplay. So that way you didn't have to code anything. You would place the device, you would set your settings, and then you would connect them, and then that's how they would work together. And so that's why devices are so crucial and are the backbone of developing in Fortnite. They are the gameplay mechanics. Devices come with a lot of different options. They're triggered using functions and events, and they're very flexible with each other. And you can trigger them in all kinds of different ways, either with trigger devices or when one device triggers one event, it can trigger another event. You can chain them any way you like. And then you can also configure most of them in both a live edit session in Creative and in the details panel in UEFN. And I'm going to show throughout this presentation, I'm not going to go into UEFN live, but I have video going into both sides. I meant to say that at the beginning. Okay, and just to touch a little bit about Verse. Verse is what we consider to be the programming language of the metaverse, and it was designed specifically for video games. And the thing about Verse is that it does expand Verse functionality. So you can call the APIs, you can get additional functionality that's already built in without having to do custom code. Of course, if you want to do custom code, you can. That option is available to you. And so it gives you a lot of flexibility in sort of what you want to build in your design and gameplay mechanics. I would say if you're an advanced programmer, you're really familiar with programming languages, this may be something you want to dip into for the Game Jam, but if not, it's totally fine. There's a lot that you can do without Verse just to get up and going. So, okay. This is one of the really cool things that I love about developing in Fortnite, especially for folks that are just getting started or you're unsure. I am not an artist, art is not my thing. And so we give you a bunch of art assets right out the gate, and not just art, but so much more. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to play a little bit from in-game. I don't know if you can hear. I'm going to adjust my sound a little bit. I'll just pause. This is Fortnite. This is what happens when you open Fortnite and you scroll down. This is Discover. So all of these islands are made by developers like you. These are all developer-made islands. And then these are our game collections. So these are our official partnerships, brand partnerships. I'll touch on those a little more, but I just kind of want to pause to highlight that here. And then the background music is background music when I was recording this, but you're going to see here that I'm actually going to pull up Fortnite Creative. Now, Fortnite Creative, like I said, was the original before. Let me turn down Lady Gaga. I love you, but okay. Fortnite Creative was before UEFN. And so that's why it's in the Fortnite client. And so you'll see later when we go into UEFN and you launch a session, you actually open a Fortnite client and you open Fortnite Creative. So they are interconnected with each other. But I wanted to show this because I think it's a good kind of initial starting point to see a lot of the assets that we have available. We have starter templates both in Creative and UEFN. I'm just going to name my island here. It's going to yell at me because this was my second time doing it. And then it drops us right in. And the thing about being in Creative in a live edit session is that it is very kind of WYSIWYG, very kind of user-friendly, very, not really complex to move around. It feels like you're in Fortnite when you're there, right? And so here, what I'm showing off is all of our assets. So these are our prefabs, galleries, devices, weapons, items, consumables, everything that you see in Battle Royale, we bring over and then some. And so prefabs are pre-constructed buildings and structures that you can just place in your building or place in your island. I'm going to do that in a minute. You can see I pulled the reboot van as a device into place as well. But you can peruse all the weapons, all the resources, everything is available to you through here, which is really, really great. And we keep adding to it every release. Okay, yeah. And then when you're in a live edit session, you use the phone tool to do your placement. And I'm in the building, so I'm going to fly out. And there's my reboot van, and it's that simple. You pull the assets in, you place them down, and you go. Oops, let me see. Oh no. Sorry, one moment. 14. Okay. So I just wanted to show briefly, this is in UEFN. I'm going to go into UEFN a little bit more later, but I just wanted to show the assets are also in UEFN. So the same thing that you just saw in Fortnite Creative, also available in Fortnite. Those are all the devices. I'm going to skip down a little bit. These are all the characters. I click around a bit. I think to props. Props are walls, stairs, roofs, basically all of the pieces that would make up a prefab is considered a prop and are in the galleries. So you can see there's a lot here to go through. Yeah, I think I click on Art Deco. Yeah, you can see all the walls and floors and everything that's available. There's really just so much content. And with all these different themes, all different styles, it's really a diverse amount of content. And the nice thing about UEFN is we also give you UEFN specific assets. So these are textures that I'm clicking through right now. And then I think I go into VFX, through the Niagara. So these are particles that we just give you out the gate as well. So there's really a lot out of the box that you have to explore and build with. If I can get... Okay. All right. So with that in mind, now I'm going to jump into your first island. So this really is the best first starting place to get going. The great thing about this tutorial is that it really encapsulates the entire process from start to finish. You start in UEFN and you, you start building out your assets, building out your devices. And then you go into a live edit session where you can refine your devices more. You can place props, set up your carnival room structure. And then we add a little verse at the end that you could not do with the device out of the box. So we added some custom functionality to it using verse. And that gives you the whole workflow from end to end. And so this is the My First Island feature example template. And you can see here, it's just a little carnival game shooting setup, very simple. This can be completed within an hour, give or take. So it's really simple, really easy to get going. You can see I'm going to end game here. Excuse me. And then all of our feature examples have what's called billboards in them. So you can see even in-game, our in-game content has explanations and learning information in them for you so that when you're looking at it, you could see okay, this is what we're using the sound device for. This is what our custom verse device is for, and so on. And then here I'm going out of UEFN. I think I'm pulling up the verse code. I'm so sorry, excuse me. When you download UEFN, you also auto install VS Code, so you don't have to worry about that. And then that's what you're going to use to configure any of your verse files. And so this is the verse file for build your first island. Okay, so how everything works together. Like I said, it really is about starting you in UEFN as the core tool and then using Fortnite Creative as for your live edit session in order to play test out your game loop, and see your level at scale. That's also really important when you're placing a bunch of assets. And then also using Verse for any custom functionality. And there's 3 ways to follow along with this. So you can follow along in the written tutorial online where we go way step-by-step hand-holding, or you can go on FN Create where we have a YouTube playlist where you can build your first island through that entire process. It's less than 30 minutes to do for that entire video series as well. And it also has a little bit more information about Creator Portal too. So if you skip that video because you're just interested in it for the game jam, it's even less time. And then, of course, like I showed off, we have the feature example, which you can go in-game and access in the UEFN editor itself. So we have different touch points for how to learn and get started and jump in. Okay. And then if you are ready to level up, or you really enjoyed the Build Your First Island experience and want a little bit more, we also have a follow-up tutorial about leveling up with Verse that uses the first island gameplay feature example, and you just build on top of that and refactor the Verse code and expand on it from there. Okay, so in addition to Build Your First Island, we have a lot of different kinds of hands-on learning materials. One of the things that we really focus on is, in-game learning and getting you hands-on. And so we have a lot of content that has feature examples in the editor. So I'm going to show those in a minute. But every feature example has accompanying documentation tutorial that goes with it. And so you can see things in game where they're billboarded with brief explanations, and then the documentation does a further deeper dive. And then for some of them, we also have accompanying video tutorials. So in this case, this is the Triad Infiltration, which you'll see. So we have the feature example, which is the jungle theme. We have the written tutorials, and then we have the video tutorials, which were like a Western spin on it. So there's lots of different ways to learn. We also have a lot of resources based on like what you're trying to do specifically. And I kind of group them together by programmer, designer, and artist. So like I said, if you are really interested in programming, you have a lot of experience in programming and want to dig into Verse a bit more, we have more Verse starter content. You also would probably be interested in persistence, scene graph, all of our gameplay mechanic tutorials. And we also have a map and UEFN video series that talks about transforms. So scale, rotation, and translation, which is pretty cool. I think I have a video of playing it later, but it's with Fall Guys. It's pretty fun. But the designer, what I want to highlight here, because of the the diversifier that Rich announced, the cameras and controls. So one of the cool things about what we did in Fortnite is we actually took different camera views and put them into devices. So the default is third person, but if you want first person, you just place the first person device. If you want side scroller, you just use the side scroller device. And then we have an orthographic camera as well. So they're all devices. So it makes it really easy to use. Definitely check this out, designing with cameras and controls, to kind of get a glimpse at that. We also have other things on like camera, character, and NPCs feature example that's in the editor, custom UI. And we also have design best practices as well. And then on the art side, the lighting templates, I think, are probably some of the best that we have. They're really cool to go through. And I think the content is really, really good. The written content's really good. And then we also have things on audio, VFX, and as well as building realistic environments as well. So there's really a lot of information here that you can kind of deep dive into depending on what you're interested in, what you want to do, which is great. Okay, so this is going into UEFN. So island templates are these are like the plain flat grids. A lot of these are also in Fortnite Creative. So when you go to make a blank island in Fortnite Creative, these are all going to be mostly the same, except for simple and blank. Those are UEFN specific. The brand templates are the IP partnership content, which I'll touch on in a minute. But I think I'm about to open. Yeah, feature examples. So this is where all of our example and exemplar content is. And so when you open these will all have billboards in them. This is all the learning-based, game content. So I'm going to pick parkour here for this example and just rename it. You can see up here, there's a documentation link. So that takes you out to where the documentation is in browser. So yeah. Okay. This is the default view that comes in. You can see the billboards here are a little bit more spiffy, right? They've got the custom blue background a bit. And you can see that I'm moving around my level with the controls. And what's the nice thing about seeing this in UEFN is I've got my outliner on the right side. I've got my content drawer at the bottom. And so if you're familiar with Unreal Engine, this should look really familiar to you. I mean, it's basically Unreal Engine Lite. So what I did here is I went into a live session, which opens edit mode. You can see edit mode up here in the corner, and you can actually see UEFN behind me. So if there are any changes that I make here, they'll also show up in UEFN. So I'm looking at the devices a little bit more, inspecting them. You could see, I think I go into, yeah, so this is what the options look like from creative or a live session, where I was talking about you can toggle them back and forth, the WYSIWYG view. I just fly through the level a bit here. Look around. I believe these are all out of the box. I think they're from the mega set, I think. So yeah, so now I've launched a game. I'm going to play test. I'm going to parkour very, very poorly here in a moment. But it basically gives you an idea of what the iteration loop looks like of like, all right, I configured my devices in UEFN. I set it up. Now I'm going to go test it, check it out, and then like keep doing that iteration loop. And I think I show the, excuse me. Yeah, so you can see here that this is basically the exact same thing of when I opened Fortnite Creative earlier. You can see the map, the log, everything in the content drawer is here. You have access to everything. There are certain devices that are only available in UEFN, but I would say like 90% of them it's the same across both without issue. So, okay. Branded content. Okay, our IP content is so cool. Not only do you get to have access to, some of these like really iconic and beloved, IP and brands, but also a lot of them showcase new features. They highlight new content that we've been adding or developing out. So like Squid Game, for example, added a bunch of devices that allow for more social deception type games, which was really cool. And then The Walking Dead, you can see, added a lot more like visual effects and like post-processing effect type things into that set. This is one of my favorites. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle launch actually not only did new post-processing effects, but also showcased the side scroller device. So if you actually go into the Turtles feature example, the arcade template, it actually has the side scroller set up and like a small beat 'em up kind of style thing. So the brand templates are actually a really good place to go look, and check out like some of these features in action. So, and you can try them without committing to any of like the revenue share or signing up for anything. Like you can just open a template and mess around with it, no problem. So, okay. The other kinds of hands-on learning, like I alluded to, like we have a lot of video content online as well on FN Create. So we have our first hour in UEFN series. It's not really a first hour series. It's more of like a feature overview, but it'll give you, it'll show you the editor in detail. So if you're like, whoa, that screen was overwhelming, I need a little orientation here, you can go online and check that video out. And it goes through every major system and feature tool available. And then, like I said, we have our Math and UEFN series. So there's a lot more to see on FN Create as well. And I think a lot of the live streams and some of the other learning materials are on there too. So it's definitely a good resource. Okay, help! Where do you go when you get stuck? This is my favorite thing because, of course, documentation comes into play here. So not only do we have the other resources available, but you also have documentation, you have snippets and forums, and then you also have the Epic Developer Assistant.
So documentation is the baseline and the foundation. All of our onboarding content is on there, our installation, build your first guide, all of our references, so on and so forth. Also, any deeper dives into a particular subject or any of the feature examples like I've been talking about, we really try to have documentation available to accompany that and just go further into those explanations that you aren't able to get into when you're looking at something in game, right? And of course, all of our API references are on the documentation site as well. So how to search? There's a couple of different ways that you can get into the Epic developer community, which is where all that's hosted. You can, of course, do a Google search. And usually we will come up in the first couple of search results like we do here. And then once you're in the documentation, if you kind of have an idea, this is really good for devices. If you're like, oh, I just need the character device and I just want to see its settings, you can just use the filter and it will search by title. So that's what the filter does in the table of contents. And then right now, what I'm searching into is the Epic developer community site, which will search everything. So you can see here, I have to filter by Fortnite to not get the Unreal Engine audio stuff. I'm getting the audio player device like I want to. So yeah, and then I think lastly, yeah, I go into the Epic Developer Assistant. So this is our AI-powered assistant that's built into the EDC. It is trained on documentation. And so when it generates an answer, it will link the documentation that it pulled its sources from. And also it can generate code for you to copy paste and test out and tweak as you need it as well. So it's definitely like a really powerful tool to leverage and check out. And you can see it made a code snippet for me. So yeah. Okay. Like I said, we also have a full snippets repository. We do have staff that will post snippets there on a regular basis. So definitely check that out. And then of course the forums where you can go and, ask the community for help and Epic as well. And usually a lot of the information kinds of feedback my team does get. But for the jam purposes, it's a good place to kind of search and, maybe find an answer that you're looking for. Okay, so this was a lot of information. So what can Fortnite do for you, right? I think, Fortnite to me, like I said in the beginning, it's really great for getting up and running really quickly, especially if you are for the jam purposes. I think if you're looking at something that's multiplayer, something that's shooting oriented, I think Fortnite is going to be really, really good to get going quickly. We do have RPG kinds of elements, but they're not as strong as the shooter elements because, of course, the basis for creative was coming out of Battle Royale. So I think if you're looking for something that's multiplayer, if you're looking for something that's shooting, this is a good tool to kind of look at and check out. Of course, you can build, a lot of custom things. You can import custom assets into UEFN, which is really great. And I've seen a lot of, islands that don't look like Fortnite. And that's kind of the cool thing about UEFN is you can have a game in Fortnite that doesn't look like Fortnite. And it's taking advantage of the platform and all the players and all the tools available to you. So yeah. Oh, that's the other thing I did want to mention is that the nice thing about Fortnite 2 is that the engine piece of it is taken care of for you. So the infrastructural framework of having to deal with baseline character physics and having everything run underneath in the framework, right, set up, all of that is done for you on Fortnite. You're literally just going in and designing the gameplay experience that you want to when you access the tools. And then devices let you tweak the framework a bit as well. That general physics just went live. Went into beta a couple months ago, and that's kind of the first breakage of moving out of the Fortnite character physics, which is good and maybe not something you're interested in, right? So it just kind of depends. But I think that there's a lot, especially to get up and going quickly. I think there's a lot of advantages here. And of course, getting to have access to all of the players on Fortnite is really incredible. So yeah. So what are you waiting for? It's just that easy, right? Easy to gray box. You get a bunch of assets and functionality right out the gate and access to all of our players. So that's it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that was awesome. I think that was a really, really good overview. I think there's a whole bunch of things that sort of jumped out at me as you were going through there. I think the first point is to say, if you look at the recent history of modern gaming, and let's say 2017-ish onwards, since Fortnite dropped originally, if you could see it, pick a game that has found a way of reinventing itself constantly, staying relevant, plugging into new technologies and harnessing these new different things and setting trends continuously,
Yeah.
you'd have to say that Fortnite would be, whenever I give all these talks about games and design, and this, Fortnite is always one of my go-to examples for games and technology platforms that has just found this way of keeping itself relevant and reinventing itself and looking at new ideas and always forward thinking. And the many, many examples of different tools and plugins, plus all of the different branded options where it's so very relevant and plugged into pop culture. It just makes you want to just dive in and play around with it constantly. It's just, if there was an award for a game that just ticks those boxes, you have to give it to Fortnite. I don't see other options that do it just as well, frankly.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. I'm always amazed at like every new season, all of the new things that we're doing. And like some of my favorite things to do in Fortnite is not Battle Royale. Like I love Fortnite Festival. I love playing the Lego islands. I love, playing the like simulation based islands, and I just kind of put up YouTube and I just like chill, I mean, there's really just so much to do. And it really just keeps evolving. It's really impressive. Yeah.
No, it really is. I'm a long time Unreal Engine user, and we were chatting a little bit before the show started. I was saying I was a user of the original Unreal game before Unreal was Unreal Engine. It was just the game Unreal that had all the modding, the level editing tools. So I was doing bot matches with that, which then became UDK, which then was like kind of grown to UE4, UE5, and now we have UEFN. And there's so much overlap. And I even see every now and again, I even see little nuggets of things from yesteryear that are, that tools was there back in the day when it's just the newest way of expressing it. And now it's just a lot more easy. And it's really cool to see that. So we've had like a whole bunch of questions coming in from folks as we've been chatting, and it would be cool to see if we can maybe get through some of these. I think my question initially would be, what would you say if you're a power Unreal Engine user? Do you think you could just jump straight into UEFN without any problems, right? Would you agree with that? Or?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'd say the biggest difference and like the biggest hurdle to get over is that you have to understand devices and verse. If you can wrap your head around devices and verse and understand how like devices really are the bedrock of gameplay, and then you're using the verse API to expand the device functionality, or you're making custom verse devices to make your own custom functionality, a lot of the rest of the art tools frankly are the same. Like the landscape mode is the same. Sequencer, Niagara. I mean, there's some limitations, and there's also memory limitations with Fortnite. Like we limit how big your island can be. But I think like a lot of the folks coming in from UE into UEFN, it's going to feel very familiar, and I think it is a lot going to be pretty familiar. So.
Yeah. And you could even argue that if you're never used either, UEFN's probably the less steep learning curve. I think you could just dive right in and start building. I think if personally, having played with both, and as the teacher in me, I suppose when I look at it objectively like that, I would lean towards UEFN as the one that's probably the easiest one to kind of get into more rapidly than the full sort of UE experience. But a lot of overlap. I'm just checking some questions. Alex, I noticed you popped up with a cheeky question, and he was basically asking if you need to be able to write your own custom VersaCode in order to ship an island, or can you just do that without having to do that? I would guess you don't need to do that really. You can just use the vanilla stuff, right?
No, you don't need to use custom verse at all. That's how devices were originally created, was without code. And so there's definitely a lot of gameplay that you can make with just devices without ever touching verse. I think you'll find that the functionality is a lot more restricted, particularly if you're looking at genres outside of shooting genres. But by and large, like, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of islands that are run without verse. Now, I think to
Yeah.
level up and to really kind of scale, I think you should consider verse, but certainly for these purposes, like, I don't think it's necessary. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree. They also had a follow-up question, which is actually similar to another question that was submitted by one of our attendees when they registered. It's basically a similar question, and he's basically asking about how easy is it to basically import your own custom playable characters, and how much overlap there is with those, and the skeletal system for the Unreal Engine system, and how compatible is that? Basically.
Yeah, so the NPC spawner device lets you import custom meshes. I think if you're doing anything that is not wildlife or outside of what the Fortnite character rigging is, I think there's some trickiness there, but you can do it, and you can also import metahumans, although they are very expensive. But you can do it. The talisman templates, there's a metahuman talisman template that you can check out for that. Feature example template.
And it's worth mentioning. I guess it depends on your aspiration as well. I mean, if you're looking to completely, model, rig, texture, bring it all in completely, something you've done completely by yourself. I mean, any character artist that understands the full workflow that's worth their salt will probably tell you the amount of heartache that they've been through perfecting the technique and the art of getting a character into any game engine, really, with any level of success, because there is it's about learning the workflow and trial and error and experimenting, and you'll get it in the end, but you may need to tweak a bazillion times before you get there. So some of the questions we got, this is quite a good one. It's basically saying, in your experience, how transferable would you say that sort of UEFN skills are into the sort of native AAA industry, and how sort of job ready do you think that makes you? And they're also asking about skills such as architectural visualization and industry simulation type skills as well.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of really transferable skills coming out of UEFN, especially, because first of all, like I mentioned before, UEFN is basically Unreal Engine Lite. So if you're going from UE to UEFN and vice versa, like, there is a bit of a jump in both ways, but you have a leg up. And like I said, a lot of the systems are the same. A lot of them are going to feel very familiar. And so I definitely think, it's transferable to go up and to scale out from UEFN into UE. And I also think that, the way the platform is set up and the way that, we've designed our learning content is, it's really not just about like, okay, make you an island so you can gain all the revenue on it, but also trying to teach good game design practices, good coding practices. And so I think that in terms of this being like your first game engine, I think it's a really good one to get started in, and that will transfer for sure. Arch visualization, I'm not so sure about that. I don't know much about ArchViz, but at least from a tools perspective, I think that. And I know we use Unreal Engine for ArchViz. I just don't know much about it. So
well, very versatile piece of equipment, I have to say. It's used for a whole bunch of things. Another question just popped up, and I appreciate you guys keep posting your questions, keep commenting, and I promise I'll try and pick out as many as I can as they pop up. Where has it gone? Oh, we go. Yeah. So we just had a question asking, they're interested in learning more about coding, and they're asking, would the UEFN be a good place to do that? I mean, my initial thought would be, well, any platform that allows you to test out code, get instantaneous results, and play around with it and experiment is a great way to learn. Fortnite provides you with that facility, so I think it's as good as any tool that you can use.
Yeah, for sure. I think that the strength of Verse is that it's built with video gaming in mind. I know that it is different from other programming languages. I'm not a programmer by trade, so I don't want to misspeak. But I think that there are some transferable skills there. But it is a new programming language as well. It's only like 2 years old. So it's not as something that's as old and as established as C++, which Unreal Engine is based off of. So yeah, so I think you just kind of have to, gauge what you think is best for you. So yeah.
I am a devout worshipper of C++. I do love C++, I have to say. But hey, Unreal Tech, C++, can't go wrong.
Yes.
With all that. There will probably be, but with my academic hat on again, there will be purists that might listen to us and say, oh, you verse as a first language, or but I would disagree with that and say, actually, what we want is to provide this level of accessibility for people. We want people to be enthusiastic about coding. We want people to be able to experiment, to be creative, to see things happen as a result of the things they've made. And verse, is a really great way of doing that. And as you said before, once you've got that leg up, actually then that opens the doors to learning other languages, other forms of syntax. It's a great way to get started. With another question that popped up as we were just speaking, which was, what's the best way to get into all this sort of stuff, to learn to design if you've never really done it before, if you're a complete novice and you have no design experience? And I would say, have a go. The best way to learn is to try and fail many times.
Yeah, and we have some really great beginner first time content as well in the documentation site. So we have it's like the 101 of just game design. So it talks about what a game loop is and why a game loop is important, right? And so those kind of core foundations. And then we also have some really good simple tutorials. So if you go to build a game, the build a game tutorials there, like box fight, 1v1, those are some of the old staples of islands in Fortnite. And they're also very simple tutorials to do. So it'll get you acquainted with the editor, it will get you acquainted with the game design loop and process, and there's no verse code in those. So it's very much just configuring your devices and dropping assets and just setting them up and stuff like that. So those are two resources that we have available to you. Otherwise, there's a lot of really good game design, kind of resources out there. The Book of Lenses, I forget what Salen and Zimmerman's game design book is, but there's a lot of really good staples out there.
So many options for that. So it's never too late to get started. That's what I always say. Never too late. Let me just check some of these questions, make sure we answered some of the good ones. One question was asking a little bit about, I think they're alluding to what they're meant to be doing the UEFN, and I think it's a question that relates to the diversifier. So the question is actually framed as what should the game be, what type of game might it be, and would I have to do it in UEFN or Fortnite Creative? So if to be compliant with our diversifier, as we said at the very beginning, you're going to want to build it in UEFN, and there are some additional optional challenges as part of that. So I might as well just run through those really quickly right now, just so we're all clear. So the main diversifier, which is one of several we're running this year for Global Game Jam, this one is one of my favorites. Build it in UEFN, where we're asking you to create your game using the Unreal Editor for Fortnite UEFN. And if you want to gain some extra kudos, you can try some additional things. We want you to try incorporating a couple of different ideas. So one of those might be playing around with additional camera perspectives. And Alexandra has a great overview of that, which is super duper. Also, think about maybe using explosives as a way of having that as a core mechanic, or utilizing NPCs in a way that drives gameplay and really makes it unique and engaging. So there's a few options there as part of this diversifier that really open doors to doing all different types of things that don't necessarily have to involve shooting. And when you were speaking about that, one of the things that came to mind is when I was looking at popular games UEFN that were fairly recent. One of them was a murder mystery game, for example. There's many examples.
There's so much.
Many examples of stuff that does not involve shooting and parkour and all this sort of stuff, right?
Yes, parkour is really popular. Bed Wars, Only Up. And I was gonna say too, I just lost my thought. Explosives. There's a lot of explosive devices that are available too. So all of that functionality is out of the box. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, we have the skilled interaction device. So if you're trying to do timed events like fishing games, you can make a fishing game with it, any kind of similar things.
Yeah.
There's really a lot of options out there. I think if you're looking for inspiration, like I would just people are making and what they've done, and like find what you like to play, and like you can search discover by like category. And so I would, find a category that you enjoy playing, and then just kind of, check some islands out from there. So
yeah, it's great advice. And I mean, it's always good to take inspiration, make it part of your brainstorming process. That's what I would recommend for sure. Another question we got is, can users make money off their Fortnite games if they become successful?
Yeah, so when you signed up for the Island Creator Program, to publish your island, you sign up for revenue streams. So there is a revenue split that you sign up for. I don't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head, so I'm not going to try to quote them. But you can earn money now in two ways. So the first is through engagement payout, so engagement with your island, and then we just added recently in island transactions where you can sell items on your island for revenue as well. So we do have monetization streams available.
Mm-hmm. That's great, and there are many examples of successful games, and there are some published stats. And by the way, I've seen quite a few of those stats, and some of the figures that some people have been able to generate as a result of their games is astronomical. It's hugely impressive, by the way. So it's always worth a try, because you never know, your game might be the next crazy viral experience that people just want to play.
No, you really don't know.
You never know. It's like a champagne moment, isn't it? And that's the beauty of experimentation, and also the beauty of the jam, because you tend to get the craziest prototype experimental things from jams, because it's such a rapid condensed thing. So if you're gonna create something crazy that people just want to play, you never know, it might be Global Game Jam, the place where that happens, right? So it's worth thinking about. Another question we've got, I think we may have covered it slightly, but I'll go through it anyway, is creating for Fortnite closer to modding other games, and how straightforward is it moving from UE to Fortnite? So I think we kind of answered this on and off already, but we might as well revisit it.
Yeah, I'll speak to it. Yeah, so I definitely think that a lot of our users do have a modder mindset, especially when it comes to verse code. Like, we know that, developers just kind of want to take a code snippet and just copy paste it and put it in and, have it work in the way that they want it to work. And so that is something that we're aware of and that we try to build our content around too. Like, I think, at this, there's always a range of people that are developing. And so I would say, like, a modern mindset for Fortnite is definitely something that is valid and that we consider and try to cater to. And a lot of our tutorials where we usually, when we're working with code, we break down the code as we go through it. And then we usually have a section or a new page at the end where you can just copy paste it straight out. So we try to make it learn as you go, and then make it as accessible as possible to incorporate.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. It's a perfect workflow. In terms of, go for it. No, go for it.
I was gonna say, and it's also a great way to kind of, get started with verse as well. Like, if you're nervous and, you kind of got a little gist for it, but you don't feel comfortable with the language, like, definitely copy paste the code snippets. Like, that's what they're there for, right? And the more you use it, the more, acclimated, and the more it'll make sense. So,
yeah, exactly. There's a bunch of folks who are asking similar questions here and there about how might you get into it as a beginner. And I think that mode of thinking is exactly the way you want to get into anything as a beginner, really, which is just open it up, test it out, look to see what examples there are, pick them apart, see how they work, change something. Oh, now it's broken, I'll change it back again. Maybe I'll change this instead. Oh, now it's different, and so on and so on. And use that mindset. And and frankly, that is the way that I mostly taught myself to use a lot of game engines over the years, where going back a little bit further, where help manuals and really all you had might have been the occasional textbook at the time, which is always really quickly out of date with the next version of the engine. So there were a lot less major web repositories in the earlier days. So trial and error and breaking things a bazillion times and then trying to figure out what you did, and then you can't, so you end up having to just reinstall the whole thing because you've broken it, and then just keep doing it but that's how you learn, right? And there's no law that says you can't do that, right? So that's the best way to get started, is to have fun, be creative. And actually, those kind of things start, at things like Global Game Jam, right? Because you meet people, you try out things, you learn new skills for a short period of time. And, over the years, I've seen on many occasions there are folks that have attended jams that were literal beginners in many ways. They've never really played with any kind of engine technology. They've got there, they've jumped into a group with a bunch of other folks. There might have been one or two other guys in that group that have done a bit with game engines, and they've sat together over a whole weekend, and they've come away having, now they're a budding game dev after just 2 days of playing around with an engine, and now they've really got the feel for it. And so that's the mantra that I would really kind of champion with respect to harnessing the power of UEFN. Its ease of use, the huge array of support materials that there are. It's a great choice if you're going to get into something as a beginner. That's a good as place as any to start, and I think it's super important. So questions popping up from Marty. Does UEFN either with or without verse work with traditional source control, and what sort of systems do teams use for collaboration?
Yeah, that's a great question. So UEFN has Unreal Revision Control built into it. So you don't need to download PortForce. You don't need to download any other source control. Unreal Revision Control handles all of the source control for you. That's also, you can also collaborate using Unreal Revision Control. There's some limitations on it. Definitely, I'm not as familiar with it recently, but you can definitely live collaborate, and like I said, Unreal Revision Control, tracks all of that. So I would definitely check out the documentation online, because that's going to be the latest. I haven't refreshed myself on URC very recently, so I don't want to misspeak. But yeah, we do have our own source control, and you don't, like I said, you don't have to download any other third-party source control in order to use UEFN, which is great. So.
Yeah, that's super useful as well. And the thing I would say about source control platforms is they can get out of hand quite quickly if you don't know what you're doing. So typically you have somebody in the team, if it's a team effort anyway, that's already usually a bit of a black belt at that whatever source control platform it is, and then they're kind of sorting it out for everybody else. If nobody has had any experience in any of them, there's an additional learning curve involved in getting those things integrated and using them properly and stuff like that. So if you've got something that's already integrated and it's kind of a go-to tool that you can use, that's a great place to start. So it's very helpful in that sense.
And I forgot to add too with URC. So if you're planning on making a team, right, it's not just yourself and you want to collaborate, you do need to go into Creator Portal and set up your accounts, because in Creator Portal you'll be able to create your team. You have a team admin, and then you can add people to that team. And so then when you create an island, you can say, okay, this project is part of this team, and then that allows you to have that collaboration. So I would make sure to check out the documentation online to make sure that you set that up ahead of time correctly.
Yeah, defo. Another question just got popped up, which is asking, do you need to pay to access USC, for example? And what was the following question?
Nope,
and do you need to download Fortnite? Do you need to download Fortnite itself? And it's one and the same, though, isn't it? So Fortnite is part of the same ecosystem. So yes, you do need Fortnite, right?
Yeah. So you need to. You need to download the Epic Game Store. You have to have an Epic Game Store account. You do have to download Fortnite. And Unreal Editor for Fortnite is a separate download. So it's I guess the two programs plus the launcher. And then Creator Portal, which is a website. So you don't have to download that, but you have to sign up for it. And it is all free. So just the same as Unreal Engine is, it's very much, we want you to get in there and play around, build what you want to build. And then to publish in Fortnite is also free. And then that's where the engagement payout and monetization kind of piece kicks in. But yeah, everything we give you out of the box, you can use, you can totally publish. That's the big thing about the brand partnerships, is that you could not bring in your own version of Rumi from K-pop Demon Hunters, right? But if you decide you want to make a K-pop Demon Hunter Island, you can do that through a licensed agreement with Netflix that's official, and it's all cool legally across the board, right? And so that's the really great thing about the brand partnership piece, and also the Lego piece, right? If you're a big Lego fan, you can use their official assets and the minifigures and all the tools and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you can have so much fun. My boys, by the way, are obsessed with K-pop Demon Hunters. Watching it it's on repeat constantly in my house, just like all day, every day. That and or something Ghostbusters related usually is one of the two. It's just pandemonium in my house.
Yeah, you can see I have Mira, so I got the kit. Yeah.
Yeah. So just segueing into, I guess, thoughts about the upcoming jam and how all these things come together. I think it would be, if you're really interested in pursuing the diversifier, and if you're watching this, I really hope that you are, because this one is definitely one of my favorites. I just think it's super easy to get into. It's going to be awesome. Looking forward to seeing what comes out of it. It would be super advisable to get on top of UEFN as soon as you can, start playing around with it, break it a bunch of times and reinstall it like I might have had to, and give yourself some time to prepare for the big jam weekend, which is really only around the corner. I mean, I keep thinking it's ages, it's a month, it's 2 months away or something, but it's not. It's like 2 weeks away, less than.
That's always how it goes, right?
They always
come up quick.
It's crazy. It's crazy, but we've got well over 800 sites globally, and they're continuing to rack up now. So there's a massive number of people waiting to get started in the next week or two. And we're also going to have another session with you guys, Epic Games, next week as well. So a really nice follow-on to this one. We'll talk about some more cool UEFN related stuff, and we'll probably revisit the diversifier a little bit as well. But I think it'd be nice just to talk a bit about thoughts for jammers, aspiring jammers, do's and don'ts, and the best things to maybe think about if you've only really got a super short period of time, like 48 hours.
Yeah, I mean, I would say definitely check out Build Your First Island, because that's going to give you the best initial vibe check of oh, okay, yeah, I really like this, and gives you the whole tools experience. And then I would say just stay really simple. Just pick a really simple kind of mechanic and interaction and be like, I really just want to build around this one thing and just go all in on that one thing. I think that's kind of the best way to go about it. And there's actually a lot of creativity that comes from constraints. So constraints are okay. They are not a bad thing at all whatsoever. So
I think most people who are new to jams, you always make the mistake of over scoping everything, and they want to make the next kind of Witcher-esque game, but you've only got like 2 days and 2 people, and it's just not going to happen, right? So you've got to be a little bit more sensible. I would say, do some brainstorming, decide what you want, and then deep dive into all this tech and experiment and pull out the things that are closely resembling and working in the way that you want for your game, and then build on that. And otherwise it'd be very easy in a short space of time to just overwhelm yourself with all of the stuff, because there's so much stuff. So you just got to think a little bit about what you want, and then try to pick the things that align with what it is that you want, and then build on that. That would be my advice personally, and you'll get the most out of the short jam experience. Because don't forget, you can always continue working on the game after the jam, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I'd say it doesn't have to be pretty, doesn't have to be perfect. No. Right. And that's always something that we, especially in games and AAA games, we're like, oh, we want it to look like the coolest, most realistic thing, but it doesn't have to. It could be simple, just simple blocks. And as long as the game, in my opinion,
the best jam games are usually totally broken anyway. They're sort of they work, they're fun, there's a great idea there, but they just need some TLC. And you know what? I could think of a number of AAA games in recent years that probably fit into that same category.
Yeah.
It's expensive. It still doesn't work. It's just a more expensive game. So fortunately, Fortnite is not in that category. Let's agree to that. So that's an important point to make at the end. So I think we are just about out of time. We're perilously close to the end of the hour. So I think we can call it a day there. Alex, has been amazing speaking to you. I think you've given everyone a really good overview of everything to expect. And hopefully you've piqued people's interest, and they're going to want to start pursuing the UEFN diversifier for this year's Global Game Jam. I know I'm thinking about it. If I get time to jam, that would be my go-to thing. If I can squeeze a cheeky 5 minutes in, it's going to be a cheeky 5 minutes of UEFN. That's what I say. So
good. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was really great to come and talk, and good luck to everybody. I hope your games and jams go well. So yeah,
happy days. So thank you for joining us, guys. Don't forget to like, share, comment, because it really helps us get the message out there and spread the good book of Global Game Jam to the world. And this is the end of this session, but we have lots more to come next week for the start of our official prep week. So we'll see you in the next one.